Hello and welcome to Day 6 of my Lobotomy Corporation playthrough. On this day we have a new mechanic as well as a new department. Ordeals and meltdowns essentially function as a way to add a bit of randomness into the game. Meltdowns forcing you to work on abnormalities that you might wish to ignore, and ordeals instead providing challenges that have to be dealt with. Now, when it comes to ordeals, there are 4 types of ordeals for any given difficulty, with a big asterisk on that we won't get to for a very long time. Now, the most important thing that I can note is that I messed up several times in this day because I wasn't really paying that much attention to damage types, and I sort of tunnel visioned some other stuff. So I'll be including a few of those mistakes where I think it can be relatively informative, but otherwise, we're not going to include that much else. So right over here, you have a good little boy, and this good little boy is very easy to deal with. What you do is you do instinct work with them and you get good results. If you do that, they will never breach, and they're effectively free energy. If you do other work types, then it is very likely to breach, and if you mess up instinct work, then it also can breach. But otherwise, it's really simple, easy, and safe to deal with. When it breaches, it's not as slow as the slug, so it is slightly more threatening, but statistically, it's a bit weaker than the slug if I remember right, so it's not as much of a risk to deal with. On later days, this is a complete non-issue of an abnormality. At this point in the video, I decided to include one of the mistakes I made because I sort of underestimated how much damage a lot of the early abnormalities can do. An important thing to keep track of is your employees' resistances, the damage that the abnormality does, as well as sort of planning who you want to work on a given abnormality on a day in order to increase their stats. Here, I sent a low-level employee with low fortitude to work with the Forsaken Murderer, which could be fine if it wasn't for the fact that they were also pretty vulnerable to red damage, which caused the Forsaken Murderer to kill them due to bad work results. So don't do that, don't be me, keep track of this stuff better. Hello and welcome to our first ordeal. So the Green Dawn ordeal is an ordeal which can easily mess you up if you accidentally don't pay attention to your agent's health. Otherwise, this is relatively simple. Avoid letting people vulnerable to red damage take hits early on, though later on it matters a lot less when your HP is a lot higher, and prefer sending in white damage employees when you can, because that's probably the best that you have access to at this point, because black damage weapons are somewhat rare-ish this early on, and later on this shouldn't be much of a threat. These guys deal red damage, and if they kill an employee, they will execute them brutally, which will deal white damage to everyone around them. Which, the white damage is a significantly larger threat than the red damage, but the white damage can be avoided by just not letting anyone die. So you can probably guess what I did, because I glanced over my employee's HP, but I missed that one of them had 7 HP, and it turned out pretty badly, so I ended up restarting this day. And now this is the ordeal I got on my successful run, which is the Violet Dawn. Now, when it comes to the Violet Dawn, it's pretty simple. Essentially, you kill the weird fruit slugs. Like, that's about it, honestly. Once you kill the fruit slugs, it's over. However, if you don't kill the fruit slugs, they explode. This can cause problems. Anyways, there's probably something else I should note about these ordeals, which is that they do fill up your energy quota, which can be useful. And honestly, that is about it. As long as you manage these things correctly, they're really not much of a problem, even early on. with that, that should be all for this episode of my Lobotomy Corporation playthrough. Everyone have a good day, and yeah.